Adults of Reddit, how often do you actually have? Once a week-ish. We're on our 50s, I figure we're doing fine. This aligns with other research on how frequently the happiest couples have. And what's really interesting about the top answer on Reddit aligning with the average for happy couples in us, according to other research, is that it somewhat disproves that Redditors never have. I mean, I certainly don't. But the average Redditor does. I'm 49. My wife is 51. She entered menopause. She told me recently, I'm not so interested about anymore, but I will be happy if it happens. I told you, don't worry about it. I really don't care. If you are not comfortable with having now, what's the point in pushing it? Few weeks later, she told me that she was so relieved that I told her that, and she doesn't feel any pressure for me. We have now twice a month, which is still great, I think. Before that, we had it once a week. So not it's a big loss. I think that it is much more important to build a good relationship and communication and enjoy occasional. I can feel also now with 49 that my libido went slightly down. I'm not interested also in every day as I was in 20s and even 30s. I'd rather sit and talk with my wife, watch a good movie with her, or go out to long walks with dogs. Every part of life can give you satisfactions. Remember Tom Hanks in Saving Private Ryan, when he talks at one moment about his wife, about him just sitting in the garden and watching her tend to the flowers in her gardening gloves. I was completely through menopause by 50. I will say, it is a bit alarming how the absence of female hormones just decimates your libido. It breaks my heart, really, because before menopause, I had very voracious appetites. I was having or masturbating 3 to 4 times a week. I am single now and honestly, glad there isn't a man counting on me because I don't have much interest in it. I would probably be giving a lot of blowjobs if there was a man counting on me I masturbate once a week or so, more out of habit, I think. I will say this for my 50 seconds, it takes a bit longer to orgasm, but the orgasms are so much better than they've ever been. My wife and I are celebrating 25 years in a few days, and still have an active and happy life. She actually has a more active drive than I do, but you wouldn't know it if you were a fly on the wall. We work together full time, and I flirt with her regularly, and I make a point to set aside time just to be together and enjoy each other's company, whether it be happy hour at our little tiki bar or movie nights on Fridays. If I can keep her laughing and feeling loved and desired, then I figure I am doing my job as a loving husband. And good just naturally flows from that. All of that said, it's easy to fall out of the habit of having. The longer you go without it, the easier it is for it to just go away. I think it is important to put an effort into that side of the relationship. We are in our mid to late 30s and not hitting that number. Of course, I had cancer all of 2022, so that definitely has a lot to do with it. I also had my brother become terminal from multiple myeloma at the same time. I lost him in August at the age of 31. I worked full-time through treatment as well. It was exhausting. I worked moan Thursday afternoon, went to chemo on Thursday afternoon. Friday morning, got up and left our home in Middle Tennessee and drove straight to northern Michigan. 14 hours each way to be with my brother on the weekends. I would get there at dinner time Friday and leave Sunday morning after he had breakfast. I would get home between p.m. and a.m. and be at work at a.m. Monday, rinse and repeat. Now I'm recovering from surgery to remove the last of the cancer. So happy I am cancer-free. And most importantly, that my hubby is still by my side. The year we had last year was enough to break any couple. There were financial pressures, all my constant traveling and being separated a large portion of the month, the stress the illness put on me, the stress the illness put on him, both of us being emotional, scared, angry, and sad. Throw in my grieving, 4 surgeries, an elderly dog that's like our child getting sick and almost losing him. My teenage son from a previous relationship struggling to accept my diagnosis, and moving with his dad across the country, finding out we won't be able to have children of our own together because the chemo put me in menopause. Most couples wouldn't make it through that. I am so grateful we have such a solid relationship and a solid friendship. Even at my lowest, he was making me laugh. We leaned on each other, and we leaned on being each other's best friend. We took out our frustrations sometimes at each other, had some arguments sometimes because of it, wanted to quit sometimes. But in the end, we knew in our hearts, we loved each other more than anything, and this was hard, but it was temporary, and we made it. 13 days ago, got the news I was cancer-free, and he was holding my hand. Now, it's recovering from the surgery and recovering from chemo. The doctor said it could be a year to a year and a half before I really get back to having my energy levels back. Maybe longer in my case because I went so hard through treatment and didn't rest as much as I should have, but eventually it will be better. Depends, to be honest, sometimes 3+ times. Other weeks 0. It's just the way of nature. There are bull markets and bear markets. With my wife and I, our worst bear market was pretty much all the way through her pregnancy with our third child. At the time, we also had a 2- and 3-year-old, and I was working and taking my master's degree. I think we pretty much went a year without, which, to be fair, was partly a Maslow's hierarchy dynamic because we were surviving. The other part was by the third, at least for me, I found it more difficult to see her as a Yule being during the pregnancy. And by number 3, you have the experience, knowledge from number 2, without the magic that comes with number 1. So for the first time, you are taking a clear and sober look at the real situation you're in. My wife and I were trying for a baby, and so pretty much every other day. Now that she's 5 months pregnant, I forgot how to have. It's amazing how much women want to have when they are trying to get pregnant, but when it's for fun, I'm always the one initiating. I am speaking from a happily married man of 5 years. I don't mind initiating, and she is usually receptive, but I also get shut down some nights to no big deal. But when we were trying to get pregnant, it was every night. It was wake up, shower, living room couch, and the was great. But yes, once we got pregnant, that all stopped. I think we had to celebrate successfully conceiving a child, but after that, we fell back into the maybe once week routine we had been in. And after our daughter was born, and she was medically cleared for, we would do it once every 10 days or so for a few months, and now, we are back to once a week or so. But you said your wife is 5 months along. First off, that is really exciting. It's a really special time in both of your lives. The anticipation is what killed us, but it also brought us closer together. Knowing that our lives were about to change with the entrance of a baby life into ours was a really cool experience to have together. But as your wife gets closer to the due date, she may want to get freaky more because it can induce labor. For the birth of both of my kids, my wife and I went out for date night on or very near the due date and then had that night, and the next day my wife went into labor. So there's that. After 10 years of marriage, I can say, it fluctuates. Some months it's every other day. Other times we will go 3 months without. The female libido is a mystery. Been married slightly longer, spent most of that with 0 drive. I was on a medical treatment that destroyed it, and it never came back properly. Would be gone for months a year, back for a few days a month for a while, then totally gone again. Turns out in my case wasn't all that complicated, very low estrogen, but every doctor I saw just fobbed me off. Finally started treatment last year, things improved massively. Now, it's most days, sometimes more than once. It really isn't that much of a mystery in many cases, it's just that medicine sees female libido as superfluous and unimportant. It's not a mystery. People have different drive types, and it's rare for women to be spontaneously horny after the honeymoon phase. Everyone will be disappointed if they think that one day the horniness of the honeymoon phase will come back. Many people feel open to that day if they feel connected in the relationship, seen, wanted, confident, and relaxed. That is why vacation is so much better. You are giving undivided attention to each other all day, and the stress is low. I am 10 years into my marriage as well, and was never horny. We were maybe having once a month or less. I got my hormones checked, went to a therapist, took every supplement I thought would help. I never saw any change until I started learning about in long-term relationships through 2 podcasts, Pillow Talks and Come As You Are. Both are therapists. They both have books and some specific guides as well, but honestly, they have changed my life and my marriage. Listen to them with your spouse and discuss them together, and I promise you that you'll see changes. Nah, just track what she wants. Likes in relation to her period cycle. Every month, my wife likes certain things, activities in pre-ovulation, during ovulation, and towards her period. What works for her after her period is the last thing she wants right before her period. It's like she's got a program running based on her hormones. The program reboots once a month. I used to think it was a mystery too. Turns out, it's very predictable, at least in our case. I shared all this with my wife a few years back once I had it figured out. She doesn't argue over it anymore. Now, she brags to her close friends that I know her cycle moods better than she does. Since I noticed these patterns and have adjusted to them, our life is better than ever 20 years in. Not trying to brag or whatever. It really works. Just pay attention to what she likes and when. Then try the same activity again the same general time frame next month. It sorts itself out pretty quick once you start treating it like a logic puzzle. I used to have this problem too, where we would go so long, it's like we both forgot how good felt. Then I would go out of my way to seduce her. Kissing her neck always gets her juices flowing. Seriously, it's like her easy button, and then we would both be reminded and have regularly again. But if her libido is not matching yours, you can do things to kick-start her desires. For me, I realized I was also not taking care of myself physically or mentally, and it probably wasn't very attractive. Once I started fixing those things, we didn't go as long between. Also, when she hit about 31 day, she just randomly started having orgasms from PIV without touching herself at all. Once became equally satisfying for both of us, we started doing it much more often. Eventually, I made it my goal to have her finish as often or more often as I finished, and then we really hit our stride. 9 years of marriage here. We just got through a solid month of illness and financial stress, during which time we maybe had once. It felt badly, and we both talked about how we missed it, but neither was feeling it at the same time, if at all. We finally are on the uphill with things calming a bit. We did finally have recently, but it was a totally spontaneous thing, not planned at all. If we hadn't done it right then, I think the feeling would have passed, and the rest of our busy evening wouldn't have afforded another good moment. It was awesome, and a hot bit of intimacy, so I'm glad we took advantage of it. We love each other and are constantly trying to be better people, better spouses, and better parents. So our relationship in general is very healthy. It's just part of that equation, not the end all, be all. So we try to keep it in perspective and make sure we love each other in all the ways that matter. So hopefully when the moment is right, we are in a good healthy place to get it on. About once a week. Married for about 3 years. My drive is higher than my husband's. I'd be happier doing it a few times a week, but it never happens anymore. And the Yule frustrations got so bad, I literally had a depression phase, because I thought something was wrong with me when he denied. Now, my drive is gone. It vanished a couple of months ago, and honestly, I don't miss it. Maybe it was the depression and Yule frustration, or maybe it was the fact that my boyfriend doesn't do anything new in bed, and I can never finish. I envy those with a healthy Yule relationship. I have been trying to get myself to talk to him about it, but I'm so terribly nervous, and I have a strong fear of confrontations. I just miss the early exciting days of the relationship because it was great then. I'm 52 meters and my wife 43F. We have it minimum 5 times a week. I chose to go on tree tea in my early 40s, and it was absolutely the best thing I've done for myself. My test wasn't even that low. I just chose to optimize my hormone levels for overall health reasons. It's a fact that women peak wally in their late 30s into their 40s. We as men peak in our late teens. I had a high drive anyway, so why not optimize it to enjoy my wife's high drive as well? The real secrets to any good relationship, however, are 1. Not settling on a partner in the first place. My wife and I are best friends and our life goals match perfectly. We also share similar values. 2. It's important that you understand your role in a relationship. Men and women think and process problems differently. It's a must to understand the differences. Plus, We men have to understand that what we did to win her heart in the first place must be continued throughout the entirety of the relationship. The courtship never ends. If it's not right, don't be afraid to walk away. We are in charge of our own happiness, and lots of it is a byproduct of two people who are genuinely happy of their own accord, who just so happen to complement each other's already fulfilling lives. Don't settle because you're afraid to be on your own. My partner is on antidepressants that killed their libido, and it sucks for both of us. They've been dismissed by their psych on multiple occasions. The psych saying poor libido is not really a necessary indicator that we should look into other meds. Same from their GP. I think no drive as a side effect of medication is often not taken seriously by doctors, support people, or even friends. Yes, my partner's mental health is important and medication is necessary, but also, and connection are important to that mental health. Addressing your needs and connection should be part of treating the patient. To pretend that is just icing and not part of the actual cake that makes up a relationship, makes up a person is an unhealthy viewpoint. I haven't forgotten about you, aces. Obviously, a healthy relationship can exist without. But my point is that even the decision to not have should be just that, a decision made together between partners, not forced upon them without any consideration of alternative care. That's what damaging here. For those of you out there on any medication that kicks your libido's ass, or partners to such people, I feel you. And I'm gonna be loud for you in hopes that medical research and practice one day start seeing us as a whole person rather than just a symptom to treat. I'm out mid-40s. Married almost 20 years and have 3 kids. 1 5 and 10-year-old twin boys. It's an up and down swing. When they're little and require a ton of work at all hours once every few weeks, if I was lucky and had the energy. Now, they are at this age life is still busy, but we make sure we don't forget that we are more than mom and dad. We are still husband and wife, and still very much in love. It's important to show each other that we are still attracted and interested in each other romantically, and Wally. Some weeks, it's like we're 20 again and rocking it every other night, and sometimes it may go a week or 2. The amount of times isn't as important as making sure you are still fulfilled emotionally and physically by and with your partner. Together almost 18 years. Married for almost 15. While we've had some dry spells following the births of our 3 kiddos, we generally have about 5-6 days a week. The only reason we don't every day is due to scheduling conflicts. Going for more than 2 days between is about as long as either of us can handle. I have an extremely high libido, higher than my husband's, and he's also high libido. I'm usually the one to initiate, but he literally just has to give me a look and I'm ready to jump his bones. Most of my mom friends are low libido, see as a chore, so I'm known as the nympho in our group. I'm perfectly fine with that moniker. 30 seconds and 40 seconds, together for almost 6 years. We're trying for a kid now, so there's a week where we're at it like rabbits, followed by weeks of maybe once or twice, and then a week where I'm offline. Neither of us feels like doing it on that week. Our dynamic has definitely changed in recent years. Stopping because has noticeably changed how I feel, and the reintroduction of periods hasn't helped. Plus, life has just gotten busier in general. After a day of work, then taking care of the house, running around doing whatever needs to be done, we both just want to have dinner and sit down and relax with some gaming together. Admittedly, our hobbies sometimes get in the way of why time, but when you're exhausted at the end of the day, it can be hard to get in that mood. Right now, about once a month, and that's okay for us. We have a toddler and a baby, and unless both kids are being watched at a separate location, can't enjoy it because my mind is too focused on what the kids are doing. Did I hear them? Do they need me, etc.? Also, since having kids, I just don't feel as comfortable in my body, so as it is, it's harder to enjoy myself. If the kids are in the house, even if I am in the mood, it's just not worth the mental gymnastics to try and initiate anything. My partner says the schedule is okay for them, and they constantly validate my feelings, but I still have guilt I'm not being a good partner to them. I have date night once a week with my spouse, and once a week with my long-term lover 20+ years. Spouse also has a date on the latter night, 80-90 of the time we have. but we almost always have closeness and intimacy and cuddling. The percentage of time that this intimacy includes may be dropping over time. It used to be always, and every 2-3 months one of us will have time with some less local lover we've kept over the years. We are all in our early to mid-70s. But this pattern has been going for a couple of decades. As you may have gathered, we are long-term loving polyamorists, and it works very well for us. The is only part of the picture. The love is paramount. And we do communicate. If the ever stops working, we'll still get together for touch and loving connections. None of us is as healthy as we used to be, but our pod is at least aging together in love, with laughter and lust as delicious side dishes. I don't endure casual. I'm a very shy and introvert person, so I'm most of the time single. So not often as you can guess. It is not a problem for me honestly. It doesn't bother me since for me I enjoy not for the activity itself, but because I do it with someone I love. It is not a problem as well, because I know what I'm worth. Some people would think they are attractive and worth it only because they have with a bunch of people, and I think it is a mistake. I work out, receive a lot of compliments from the opposite gender about my physique. This is really enough to flatter my ego and feel desirable. Even if I don't specially seek it, it always feel good to get compliments. I just like going at my own speed, and as long as I feel good, or at least okay with myself, it won't be a problem. But still I know I should try to be less introvert and go out of my comfort zone. With my ex-fiancée, basically once a week, except when she was on her period, in which case that was about a third of the time. I recently started dating someone else, whose drive is absolutely through the roof. Me 10 to 15 years ago could have probably put out that much, but now simply cannot keep up with her. Thankfully, pleasuring her brings me immense pleasure and joy, so when I'm not up for it, we can still really enjoy ourselves. But this past weekend, we had 4 times in the span of 36 hours, and I honestly couldn't believe I was up to it. If it was up to her, we'd be having multiple times per day. This is the saddest Reddit I have ever seen. Okay, maybe it's just very sad. Not the saddest. Here's my take. I'm in my 50s. I still would take it once a day if my wife were as willing as she used to be, but we talk about it a lot and work on a healthier life all the time. To those of you that have it once a month or never, I'm sorry, but what is it you are doing to exercise your souls together? What are you pursuing for zest? Where is the joy? Don't settle. Read, share, talk about it. If you aren't having, ask yourself why. If you aren't having enough, ask why. A healthy life with one you love is the answer to so many health issues. I could go on and on. What else are we doing here? We are spiritual beings enjoying a physical experience, so enjoy it already.